Ladies and gentlemen, if you're thinking of picking up an RTX 40 refresh, which has the tentative PR name as the RTX 40 Super, then you're in some luck, because now we're finally getting a great understanding to the release schedule, the specifications of the various graphics cards, and the change in Nvidia's strategy, particularly when it comes to pricing, which is actually perhaps going to be one of the real reasons that you may want to pick up one of these cards if you've been holding onto an older GPU. So we've discussed the specifications several times at this point, but I'll just go over them briefly in case you missed those previous videos or the news about this. Now, the last time I spoke to an AIB about this subject, which is just under 2 weeks ago now, basically I was told that nothing had been set in stone. Essentially, Nvidia had told AIBs, essentially through the grapevine, that yes, there's going to be a super refresh, but that was about as far as it went. So they didn't tell them, for example, the number of CUDA cores or the memory configurations or anything like that. So all of the specifications that have been leaked are from internal stuff at Nvidia. Now, here's the list of specifications that I had leaked back some time ago. This is almost a month ago. Now, Coppertite 7 has said much the same thing. The specifications are basically fluctuating, but here are Coppertite 7's leaks regarding the specifications as well. Now, it's very possible that their specifications or mine are incorrect, but I think what's more likely, especially because Coppertite is saying much the same, is that basically the specifications are still undergoing some tweaking. Now, I'll skip over much of the technical nuances here because, again, I've spoken about them in a previous video, but in a nutshell, you can basically think of the super cards in much the same way that you saw the RTX 20 Supers. A decent specification bump across the board, particularly in weaker SKUs. And, you know, the 40 series has been quite an interesting series of cards. Some GPUs are pretty decent. For example, the 4090, obviously, apart from the price, has been spec'd pretty well. But then, of course, there are a number of weaker cards. And, well, you can let me know in the comments below which you think is the weakest of the RTX 40 cards in terms of what it offers for pricing versus performance. But the bigger question is, when will we see these cards actually launch? Because obviously, if it's quite a long time, then you may want to pick up the 40 series because Christmas is on the way. Well, Coppertite 7 again has put out a couple of details about this. Basically, the reveal seems to be CES. In my previous video or two about the subject, this is the same date that I'd been hearing. And speaking to more people about this, who are not related to AIBs, but basically it seems that the release schedule is going to be throughout Q1. Now, again, I'm going to be probably asked about the 4090 Ti. I honestly don't know about that card. I keep being told that eventually it will launch, but I don't know if it's going to be part of the initial refresh, whatever you want to call this, or whether it's going to come later. If I had to speculate, and this is a guesstimate, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes later on, simply because of, well, Intel obviously releasing Battlemage. Now, Battlemage is probably not going to outperform the 4090. I say probably because just about every leak that has existed so far about Battlemage, including from myself, is saying that it's more roughly around the performance of a 4070 Ti or 4080, and we've discussed that many times in the past, so I'm not going to tread over old ground too much, but what I will say is that Nvidia sometimes just releases these things like a new flagship just to basically get themselves into the news cycle again, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the things going through Jensen's mind, but who knows. So what does all of this mean? Well, the important thing perhaps for many of you is the cost of the RTX 40 cards. And what really is the crux of this is that with these cards releasing the super cards, you're going to get more aggressive pricing decisions. Now, I have heard that you're going to get relatively similar performance for up to a couple of $100 shaved off. The thing is, though, pricing is never set in stone. It's possible that Nvidia will trickle these cards out as well because of Battlemage, and they want to basically have really good performance against Battlemage. But of course, pricing again is something that is often set quite late. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what Nvidia's decision is for these cards. I'm personally quite excited for the RTX 40 refresh, but at the end of the day, it is of course going to be the same technologies that we're seeing now, but there will be some key improvements here or there. There is, however, another thing that I just want to mention to you guys, because it somewhat flew under the radar. And I'm probably going to make a bigger deal of this in a future video because, well, it's quite an interesting subject, and that is putting it quite mildly. Now, as most of you know, just about everyone and their cat at this point has been really just jumping on the AI train bandwagon. And one of the kind of rumors that has been circulating is that there is going to be a Windows 12 requirement which is going to be pretty high, and that is basically 50 TOPS. Now, this is quite interesting because, obviously speaking, that would indicate that Windows 12 has a machine learning / AI component. Now, Kepler L2 has mentioned this in public on Twitter. I actually knew about it for a while, but as regular viewers know, I was basically dying last week with this, like, cold flu thing, so I'm just starting to get back into the video groove at the moment. But very intriguingly, there is actually an article which is floating around online. Now, this originated from PC World, however, I'm going to give credit as well to Notebook Check because that's where I saw this. In fact, a couple of people actually messaged me about this. Now, what this basically indicates is that Windows 12 is going to get substantial change in just the operating system. Now, if you're an old-ass person like myself, you may recall versions like Windows 3.11 and that type of stuff did not have a start button. This was a major feature, of course, which came later, namely Windows 95. And I don't need to explain to you guys what the start menu is, because just about everyone on the entire planet knows what the hell the start menu has been like and evolved to. But Windows 12 could actually say goodbye to it, and instead we're going to see basically Copilot replace it. Now, quite intriguingly, Nadella has also kind of said this himself. He said the Copilot is acting like the start button. It becomes the orchestrator of all your app experiences. So, for example, I can just go there and express my intent, and it either navigates me to the application or brings me to the application to the Copilot, so it helps me learn, query, almost pronounce that incorrectly, and create. It completely changes things, I think, the user habits, end quote. Now again, Microsoft have made absolutely no, how do I say this, they're just not hiding the fact that they're all in, of course, on AI. And I feel that, Windows 12 is going to be very interesting. Now, there are a lot of questions. For example, what happens if your system simply cannot run these requirements? Like, does it have like some type of fallback layer, etc., etc., etc.? But yeah, so this is going to be a very interesting transition, I feel, to the PC market. There's honestly a lot of stuff here that we could talk about. One of the big things, of course, is APUs now are coming, essentially equipped with NPUs. Obviously, things like Strix Point and the halo of that Sarlacc is going to have a really, powerful one, blah, 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 blah. But Qualcomm, the Snapdragon X Elite, etc., all kind of supporting this. And yes, naturally, we're seeing that, but there's also other things that's happening in the market, like ARM processors are becoming, I wouldn't say competitive with x86, because that's not quite the way to look at it, but I would say an alternative to x86 in some form factors. Which again, we could talk about a lot, but it's somewhat outside the scope of this video. But yeah, I don't think x86 is going anywhere, anytime soon. I think, there's certainly not going to be the death of x86 tomorrow. But I feel that, the whole Windows market is going to be changing a lot. So it's going to be, as always with this stuff, an interesting prospect to see what PCs look like in a couple of a year's time. I mean, that's just about it for this particular video. If you've enjoyed it, you know what to do. Leave a like and stuff like that. Apologies for not being on camera, but I've been kind of buggering around with some stuff, and you guys will see more about that pretty soon. But I'm testing camera angles in other rooms and stuff like that, and yeah, but that is a subject for another video, because yeah, I think some of you will like it anyhow. With that said, take care of yourselves, guys. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.